Hello everybody, this is Snaris again, and I'm back with my RWBY Grimm Eclipse difficulty solo walkthrough. This is chapter 4, below the surface, and I'm using Yang. And this is my build right here, giving her the super quake for her ultimate, not worrying about team attack or ranged. I've given her all her ultimates, given her a little bit more defense, because honestly a lot of her other stuff isn't that great. And if you wondered what all the other upgrades there were, I feel like I've got to explain that the far right skill tree there pretty much applies to just about every character, and one thing I made sure to highlight this time was to improve heavy attack damage, allowing for more team attack opportunities. And what that means is all triangle attacks or holding down triangle for heavy attacks, they leave the enemy a lot more vulnerable to R1 attacks, which if I'd known that a little bit sooner, I think maybe taking care of chapter 1 at the very end may have been a lot easier defending the node, and several other instances as well. So it's worth experimenting with that. But otherwise, the one upgrade on Yang's specific skill tree to the far right was, I think it's called Chitty Chitty Yang Yang or something. Pretty funny. Very fitting with her ability to make puns, but it's honestly a really good ability she has. So every 30 seconds, when her aura completely depletes, she gets all of her ultimate back. So I believe she gets all 3 bars back completely. And that's honestly really great, because you can just start spamming it like crazy. And every 30 seconds, I mean, you've seen how long some of these fights can go on for. And so in the later stages of the game, yeah, some fights are going to go on for a very long time. And if you have Yang, you can just kind of wait them out, get your ultimate back if you go down to a lower health and critical state, and just start spamming it. For some of the boss enemies, it won't really help, but I mean, it's good for iframes and to knock the enemy away as well. Great if you're up against hordes like this. But I really like using Yang. It's just too bad she's not really all that up there compared to Ruby or Blake in terms of how effective she can be in hordes, especially if you're playing alone. And this mission is probably, in my opinion, the easiest. All the others aren't so bad. But I really like the way she fights too, the combos and everything. I believe if you hit once with light attack and then do a heavy attack, she'll do an uppercut, launches them in the air, and you can do air combos if you want to some of the more basic enemies. But what I'm doing right now is 2 light attacks and a triangle, which is more or less her launching forward, doing a sort of stinger attack and doing a heavy amount of damage. I forgot what her triple light attack and into heavy attack does, but I'm pretty sure it's just like she stays where she is and launches the enemy away if they're smaller. So now we're going to fight Urs. By the way, I should mention as well that this applies more for the later missions, but sometimes the enemies you fight in one part may be different for another. And what I mean by that is, if you're in this encounter, let's say, and you're fighting Urs like I am right now, if you die and you restart from a certain checkpoint, which at this point of the game it'll be at the beginning of the level, because it hasn't really been all that long, you might come back and end up fighting like the Beowulfs or like the Super Beowulf versions of these. And I noticed that too with a lot of the later missions, because I had to start them over quite often, or I had to repeat checkpoints quite often. And what I found was, oh by the way, these things here, just hit them with range attacks and stop them from getting near you, because they are very dangerous. They explode, they do tons of damage, and if you get caught by one, you'll get caught by another, and then you'll die. And because you haven't gone far enough, you'll have to go to the beginning of the mission if you die here, like I have once before. But yeah, in some of the later missions, you might be fighting these sort of weird, like, robot thingies, and I'll explain more because I think they're the worst enemies in the game. They're so annoying to fight, and you'll have to fight tons of them later on. But whereas you might encounter them in one go, and then you die, and you go back and reload the checkpoint, or you start again, you might not fight them the same time over. So some encounters may be artificially easier than others, and I wish this wasn't the case. I suppose it makes sense to try and shake things up a little bit, but I really wish it was just, you know, it was set in stone, so it'd be a lot easier to do this and to explain how to fight these things. But there's not that many enemies in this game, so you can pretty easily figure out how to fight them. But again, we're going to be fighting Grimm for quite a while, for another couple of missions, and then eventually we'll start looking at those robots I mentioned, because there are these red robots with these lancer weapons. They've got such a wide attack range, and they just don't stop chasing after you, and they're so fast. And you've got these other sort of heavier tank, like white robots that have miniguns, and they do like a spray, and for the most part it's pretty ineffective, but it can catch you out sometimes, especially if you're on different like level terrain, sort of like what I'm fighting on right now. And I think by far their most annoying move is something very quickly that they can do, is they can throw out a sort of, it's like a grenade launcher, but it's fired really quickly. It tracks you wherever you go, and if you don't get away from it in time or you're not fast enough, it explodes, has a decent radius to it, it can stun and stagger you and completely deplete your aura. And yeah, it can catch you off guard really easily. And, you know, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself because this mission isn't really all that long. And this is where I'm going to speed things up a little bit, because this section here, you don't have to fight anybody. You just got to keep an eye on when these crystals spawn in, and you grab them, put them into the bomb cart to get it to go along. You don't have to fight anybody if you don't want to. I will mention here as well that the further the cart goes up, you will often have to run back or to your side to pick up more of these crystals. You'll never have to, you know, you can't just pick up crystals from anywhere. It'll say where it has to be, but if you can see any of those rollers or grinders getting to work on the crystals, you can pretty easily figure out where they're going to be. So I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, because I thought it would be down here, but it's actually back up there. But yeah, look, there's just so many of them, and you've got the ones that explode, you've got the Beowulfs, you've got the guys that dig up out of the ground. The further on you go, the more treacherous they'll be, so you really got to be careful. I do believe these enemies have an end, so you can fight and kill all of them if you really want to. Oh, Borbatusk as well. I saw one or two of them in there, so don't, you know, you don't have to fight these things. I wouldn't really recommend it. Just be very careful. Keep jumping and dodging. Yang's jump dodge is not nearly as effective as all the other characters, unfortunately, but I suppose it makes sense. Actually, no, it doesn't make sense, because she could use her shotgun gauntlets to push herself away. I don't know why she doesn't do that. But, yeah. I'm just trying to mix things up. And if I'm not mistaken, I only use her once more. Like, I use every character in this walkthrough twice, but with Blake I'm using her 4 times, because she's just that good. In those last missions you can't really mess around in, and I didn't want to, like, I didn't want to break her controller. So you never got an Urz coming in, and that's it. Bomb goes down, and that's the end of the mission. I'll see you in the next one.